Good morning, everyone. It's 10 o'clock. I'm Connie Myers, so it must be to 70 and beyond. Last week, I wanted to talk about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and I couldn't get my mic to work. So I've checked it out. I believe everything is working good right now. So hopefully you can see me and you can hear me. This was a picture I found of a quote she did from the Atlanta Journal, and it says, "I would like to be remembered as someone who used whatever talent I had to do her work to the very best of her ability." I think anybody, no matter who you are, could say that she absolutely was passionate about her work. She was passionate about her family and equality, and she was also passionate about opera. I watched some of her tributes over the last few days, and she was loved by everybody, both sides of the aisle, and even the journalists were emotional when talking about her. So, what kind of lessons can we learn? Well, I watched an interview with Anthony Scalia's son, Chris, and he was talking about their relationship and how, even though they were total opposites in their belief systems, when it come to the law, they were best buddies. He was talking about when they were still at the circuit court that his dad used to lean over and tell her a joke while they were doing final arguments, and she'd have to pinch herself so not laughing out loud. He also talked about the fact, and I think this is a critical point here, that how they used to help each other write their opposing arguments. Can you imagine? She's believing one thing, he's believing the exact opposite, and they're helping each other write their arguments. What would happen if we could start doing that today? What kind of world would we be living in here in the US if we had both sides talking to one another and discussing it instead of screaming, yelling, and putting obstacles in the way for the other? So I think that's one of the most valuable lessons we can take away from her life, is that you could have opposite beliefs in something and yet still be friends. It would be really nice if all of us could just get back to that. And then on CNN, I found another thing that she had wrote about her legacy. It says, "To make life a little better for people less fortunate than you." That's what I think a meaningful life is. One lives not just for oneself, but for one's community. You know, in this time with all the disasters and all the threats and the COVID-19 and all of that, I really feel the very same way that if we put our energies into how we can serve our communities and the people in the communities, it will, first of all, make us feel better, but also it will make everybody else feel better around us. And they had 10 of her most famous quotes in here, so I'm going to read those to you. Hold on a second here. I'm frozen. Here we go. The first one is about women on the court. "When I'm sometimes asked, when will there be enough women on the Supreme Court? And my answer is, when there are 9. People are shocked, but there have been 9 men and nobody's ever raised a question about that." Think about that. I loved it when they put her body to rest in state at the Constitutional Hall, and they allowed all of the women in Congress to go first as far as passing her casket, and to see how many women there are now in our system, in our government system. What she had to say about men on the court? "They have never been a 13-year-old girl." After her male colleagues appeared indifferent about a girl's strip search by a school administrators. Yeah, sometimes it's kind of hard for a man to have empathy. They don't quite understand what it is. Some men have incredible empathy, some not so much. 3, to new citizens at the naturalization ceremony. "We are a nation made strong by people like you." I think sometimes we often forget that we were all immigrants except for the Native Americans at some point or another. 4, about marriage and work. "It helps sometimes to be a little deaf in marriage and in every workplace, including the good job I have now." Yeah, being a little deaf sometimes does come in a little handy. 5, about being a woman. "My mother told me to be a lady. And for her, that meant that you were your own person and be independent." That is something that I learned from my mom. We were born and raised on a farm, and my mom would be out there plowing the fields, milking the cows, butchering the chickens, gathering the eggs, and then she would come in and bake and sew. And we had the cleanest house anywhere around and make amazing meals. She taught me that you can be anything you want to be, and that's always been my takeaway. And I totally agree. Be your own person. About gender equality. Women will have achieved true equality when men share with them the responsibility of bringing up the next generation. I'm very encouraged by that because you see so many dads now that are participating in the children's upbringing, and what that is going to do to affect both little girls and little boys' attitudes towards one another. On leadership, number 7, fight for the things that you care about, but do it in a way that will lead others to join you. John Maxwell says, if there is no one following you, then you're just going for a walk. You're not a leader. So making sure that you are supportive. The higher up in the leadership role you go, the more supportive that you need to be. Not being demanding. That doesn't get you anywhere. You need to create buy-in from the people following you. Number 8, on dissent and justice. Dissents speak to a future age. It's not simply to say, my colleagues are wrong and I would do it this way. But, and this is a really important lesson, but the greatest dissents do become court opinions. And gradually, over time, their views become the dominant view. So that's the dissenter's hope, that they are writing not for today, but for tomorrow. And I truly do believe that many of her opposing arguments will be something that will be come around in the future. Number 9, on support of abortion rights. There is something central to a woman's life, to her dignity. It's a decision that she must make for herself. And when government controls that decision for her, she's being treated as less than fully adult human responsible for her own choices. Number 10, about her legacy. We are at last beginning to relegate to the history books the idea of the token woman. So what lessons can we learn from all of that? I think if you take each one of those, there is a lesson in there for everyone, whether you agree with what she's saying or not. There is still a lesson in how she said it and what she said. And you know what? Let's, we're head into the election and everybody's got their opinions. How about if this week we ask somebody, not fight with them, but ask somebody to have a real heart discussion and not turn it into an argument? Do you think we could maybe do some of that? I think that her greatest gift is teaching us how to be a human being, number 1, but number 2, how to be with one another, whether we disagree or not, how to be with one another and how to share opinions without creating arguments and hatred. So this week, I'm going to take extra time to find someone to be able to reach across the aisle if they don't agree with me and become a little more open-minded and try to learn from their ideas. So coming up here in about at 10:30, I'm going to be talking with Tracy Hawkins. She has a free real estate safety summit. So we're going to be talking about what it's all about and who's going to be on it. So I'm greatly honored. This week is going to be an absolutely what I call kick butt week. Kick butt is when mindfulness meets vision, opportunity, and engagement. So this coming week is going to be over the top kick butt. I'm speaking at 2 events. One is the Virtual Real Estate Summit, and then the other is the National Association of Women Business Owners luncheon. And then I am going live with Edward Siegel. He has a book called Crisis Ahead. And we are going to be talking about what happens when Mother Nature gets angry, like she's been right now. So please go out, find somebody to have a real discussion with, open our minds, open our hearts, and just listen. Have a great, fabulous week, everybody. And I'll be back next week with another To 70 and Beyond. Bye now.